Retail workers of Reddit, what is the most desperate scam a customer has tried to pull on you? Years ago I worked at a Walmart and this guy comes in trying to return his Wi-Fi that doesn't work. I just bought this for my kids last week and it's already broken, but they won't take it back because I lost my receipt. The Wi-Fi in question was the most beat up and disgusting looking gamma cube I have ever seen. Like he found it in a landfill or something. I should also point out that I wasn't working the return desk or even a cashier. I was stocking the food department. Turns out he was trying to talk every employee in the store into either giving him a refund or a Wi-Fi. Worked in a bottle shop. One afternoon a shady character entered and spent 10 minutes browsing the liquor section. I stayed at the checkout and watched him on the CCTV. He ended up shoving 2 bottles of Johnny Walker Blue down his pants and walked out. Store policy is not to confront shoplifters, that's what insurance is for. I called the police and burnt the footage onto a DVD for them to collect. About an hour later the same guy returns with the bottles demanding a cash refund because he purchased the wrong type. Just as I was telling him I can't do a refund without a receipt, the police walked in to collect the footage. He left with them in handcuffs. We don't deliver the pizzas we make. It's carry out only. Had a customer call and have a long angry conversation with me because I wouldn't deliver to her. She proceeds to say, a couple times, "You must be new here. I know the owner personally." To which I responded, "Well, I'm the owner's daughter and we don't deliver." Sold a guy a phone years ago when I worked for a wireless carrier. Spent an hour getting all his information transferred and set up his new phone. He comes in the next day with a shattered screen. Apparently he didn't remember that I was the rep who helped him and proceeded to tell me that is how it looked when he left the store. Needless to say, the phone was not replaced. A guy comes in to fill his son's Adderall script. Guy is super twitchy and son is chill as could be. For all controls we are supposed to run a report that shows everywhere in the state they have filled any. Of course the report is a mess. Multiple pharmacies. Multiple scripts. Multiple doctors. All the red flags. To top it off, an Adderall script within that week had been filled, so we really couldn't fill this one. Dad comes back, we tell him that we can't fill it and Dad starts going on about how his wife must have filled it but they need some for today blah blah blah. We decline and his last words to us are, "My son needs them for a birthday he has to go to today, can't you help?" No dude, we can't help. You're clearly taking your son's pills. Get help and stop using your son to get high on prescription drugs. A woman came in. Grabbed an herb roasted rotisserie chicken. Moseyed over to the casual seating. Ate 85% of it with her bare hands. Then brought the carcass to customer service and tried to return it. A customer brought back a jumpsuit for a refund because it had sheet in it. Apparently it had been like that when she bought it. It stank so bad that you could smell it through the taped up plastic bags that she had put it in. The levels of how impossible that would have been to be unnoticed by changing room staff. To then be put on the shop floor. To then be picked up by the customer. To being bought via a cashier still unnoticed. The worst part is some idiot on the refunds counter downstairs actually accepted it and put it on top of the trolley full of other returned items for us to put back upstairs, complete with a note stapled to it that said, "Warning. Feces inside." One of the bigger WTF moments I've had in any job that I've worked. Edit. Formatting. Still not used to the way Reddit treats paragraph breaks p. I used to work at Best Buy. This guy came in and returned a laptop saying that the box had some old laptop in it. He was yelling and screaming that we don't know how to do business. Manager gave him full refund. We started to check that old laptop he brought in. It won't turn on. Looks like the motherboard was toast. We pulled the hard drive out and started checking the data. Hard drive was completely fine with everything on it. We started looking for the clues and found the pictures of the guy who returned the laptop. It was his old machine. We had all his info. Manager called him and said he has 15 minutes to bring the new laptop back or he is calling police. That guy came in. Dropped the laptop at front desk. Never saw him again in the store. Had a customer return a vacuum cleaner once. My supervisor did the return thankfully. The box went back on the floor unchecked. The next customer who wanted to buy it checked it out before they went to the register. The whole ducking thing had been replaced with a catering-sized tin of beetroot. Just yesterday I had a till tap a quick change artist try to money shuffle me for what would have been a grand sum of $5. Pissed him off when I wouldn't play his game. Next best was someone calling wanting to know if we had spare empty boxes for his box consoles. Because he wanted to prank his kid and give him an empty box. I know very well he wanted to try to stuff the box with who knows what. And attempt a return. Of course. The folks at customer service check such boxes for actual product. And match serials to those on the box. I had a customer come to purchase some stuff. And they had found a coupon from 3 years ago on Google Images for 50% off whole purchase. I told her I can't do that. And the only one we had going at the time was not viable for her purchase. Stormed out cursing. And I felt good. She emailed corporate. And I got in trouble for making her upset. Oh boy. Back in high school when I worked part-time at a KFC. There was this one fat man who would come in. Order a 2-piece quarter pack. And then claim we forgot his chicken. Like. When we turned around to fetch his drink at the end of the order. He would open the box. Take out the chicken pieces and hide them in his pockets. Hot chicken. Right in his pockets. I got so fed up with everyone just giving him extra chicken all the time that I demanded he turned out his pockets one day when he tried to pull it, and wow, lo and behold, this guy has his pockets full of drumsticks. The 12th of September. 2001. USA. A guy in Spartanburg, South Carolina calls and says that his weed trimmer was in the Twin Towers in Nick the day before and got destroyed by terrorists. And demanded I replace it under warranty. I've heard that at least one divorce came out of the attack. The guy worked in one of the towers and his wife called and terrified asking where he was, and he said I'm at work when he was in fact with his mistress. He wasn't aware that his work didn't exist anymore. Years ago I worked at a small hardware store where they were constantly getting huge rolls of copper wire stolen. One day this guy and his girlfriend come in to return a roll. I was a few months in on the returns counter. They had no receipt, and when I scanned the item for the return it was only doing the price per foot. I couldn't figure out how to get the SKU or the price for the whole roll. Called the manager and he comes out and right away knows there's no way these people bought a roll and returned it. So he asks when they bought it and they say 2 weeks ago, the common response, and my manager tells them oh really, because the last time we sold an entire roll was over 3 months ago. The guy starts to get brave and tells him so you're saying I stole it, and my manager says yes. They end up leaving and left the roll behind. Before they leave the store the guy says I'm coming back and bringing the cops. Manager says go ahead, that way you can explain to them how you stole the roll. This probably doesn't really count as a scam. But had a teenage boy come into the store and say he had no money but needed condoms desperately for tonight or he wouldn't lose his virginity. I really felt for the dude. So I ended up buying him some myself. Telling me she had a voucher for 50% off in her emails. But she didn't have a copy with her. I was like no hun. Nice try. Used to work customer service at a hardware store. You get so jaded by junkies trying to return stolen items I just started handing out refunds based on how good the stories were. Your dad with dementia bought circuit breakers every single day and recently died? Refund. You don't need these commercial sized copper elbows because you bought too many for your residential plumbing project. Nah. Idiot comes in with a coupon for a free iPad. Fine print says guaranteed and payable by Bill Gates. I asked why would Bill Gates guarantee an Apple product? Idiot left. Not traditional retail. But had a client swear she did not receive 2 packages from me and was refusing to pay the invoice for the second package from more than 6 months prior. I knew she was lying, but she was extremely rude and insistent. I was able to go back on all records and was able to find both a photo of the first package on her front doorstep. Super lucky, as that's not our normal delivery procedure to have photographed evidence. And a signature of receipt for the second one with her name very clearly signed. Dated 4 days later. I emailed the evidence and never heard back from her again. Not even an apology email or phone call. Which just confirmed she knew she was lying. I was working at Buckle for a while in college. They offer 10% military discount with photo ID. Lady comes to my register on Black Friday with an alleged photocopy of her husband's DD-214. I kindly told her that would not be accepted and she was not eligible for a discount unless she could produce dependent ID on an official card. She was pissed. I gave $0. Guess who paid full price? I used to work a game store a little more than 10 years ago. Once had a woman come in dressed fairly trendy and ask for 2 PlayStation portables, PSP, 2's box 360s, and a handful of games and accessories. My store was pretty slow, so this would be a pretty big sale for the day and I was excited about it. She goes to pay and hands me a credit card which was not laminated and appeared to be printed out on a home color printer. I told her it wouldn't work and she said just scan it anyway. So I scanned her fake credit card which clearly did not have a magnetic strip and it didn't work, of course. She told me to just put the numbers in on the computer. I refused and she asked why. Seemingly legitimately confused. I told her I just couldn't. She told me she would be back with cash. I put everything back on the shelves. She did not return. I was working at a place that has soft serve as a part of the menu. I was working one day and a lady came up to the counter and said something along the lines of, "Hey, I'm really sorry, my daughter dropped her ice cream and she's really sad about it. Do you think you could give me another?" I was about to, then realized an important fact. The ice cream was broken that day and we weren't selling any. I looked back at her and told her that it must not be from us because of the machine. She turned bright red and mumbled, "Oh, then I guess it must be from Dairy Queen or something," and left quickly. Nice try, lady. I work at a clothing store. And about a year ago I had a very drunk 50-plus-year-old lady come through my line. After ringing up her $100 plus worth of clothes, she then began to hit on me and insinuate that she could work for the free clothes. If you get what I mean. That was the quickest nope I have ever said in my life. Would not recommend, lol. When I worked at the service desk of a local grocery store, we had this lady who was super skinny and wore sunglasses and long sleeves all the time. One day she came in with a friend and tried to return beauty items. We didn't have a beauty makeup section, and claimed she had no receipts due to short-term memory loss. It was so hard not to laugh in her face. She had attempted to return things this way numerous times. We all knew what she was doing. I had someone try to return 2 bottles of laundry detergent. She dropped them off at the counter and said she didn't like that brand. She walks off to do her shopping. I wonder how it smells, so I open the detergent and smell it. It's water. Both of these jugs are filled with warm water. During the exchange she tries to claim they were like that when she bought them. I explain I can't return them and she will have to talk to the day manager. Boss lady who has final say. She was trying to steal towels from the towel department because my water broke. She even made fake blood and a realistic crying baby come out of her vag. Tossed them right out of the store. I still wonder where she got such a realistic animatronic baby though. It was warm to the touch and everything. Same thing happened to me driving a cab back in 2005. Picked up a fare headed to our local hospital claiming she was in labor. And when we arrived even had some friends dressed as orderlies nurses come out with a wheelchair and shouting all kinds of medical terms and everything. Wouldn't unlock the doors until she paid though. So I showed her. I worked for my mom-in-law at a home decor store. I had an older woman come in and when I rang her up she said she got a discount because she was the owner's mom. My immediate reaction was to yell, "Grandma!" and throw my arms out like I wanted a hug. She left very quickly. BTW, it was not my grandma-in-law. Customer returned a fake ring for $100. They had a real receipt that physically described the ring they brought in. I didn't recognize it. Even checked for it. But ultimately accepted the return because it seemed legit. What they did was buy a real ring, or obtain a real receipt some other way. Then buy a fake $5 ring that matched the description on the real receipt. Return fake ring. Get cash. Actually pretty smart. I witnessed one. I was waiting to get my hair cut at my local barber and this woman hobbles in. She had a bandage on her head, a bandage over her eye, her arm in a sling, and a cane. She sat down and launched into this horrible sob story about how she had been in this terrible accident and had spent all her money at the hospital and her car was totaled and now she had no way to get back home. etc. And of course asked for money. My barber was entirely unperturbed and said okay. Just let me finish with my customers. The lady, thinking she'd hit a score, sat patiently as he did 5 haircuts. Then he calmly walked over to the phone and called the police. Boss. I worked at Best Buy in the late 90s when I was in HS and a guy set off the alarm when he was leaving and it turned out he had like 8 CDs in his pockets which he claimed that he had bought at the mall across the street before he came to Best Buy and it must have been his house arrest anklet that had set off the alarm.